Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live. I am Michelle O'Connor, and we just want to thank you for coming on as we're going to be talking about how it is that you can build a legacy business. Now, as you know, I'm a business growth strategist, and one of the things that I champion and I push for all entrepreneurs is to have a plan for your business. Having a plan helps you to be very focused. So, if you know of any entrepreneur, if for any reason feels overwhelmed, feels as though they're not sure what it is that they're doing, they're always spinning, I want you to encourage them to come on and join our live today. Now we have a special guest in house because our aim is to talk to you along with other entrepreneurs who have done it, who have walked the road that you're planning to walk, and hear their story so you can also make a great impact as they are making. As we go through, go ahead and drop any comments or questions that you have in the chat, and we will definitely get on and respond. So I'm going to add our special guest to our stage now. Hi, Ralph.
Comment in here. I want to encourage engagement.
Yes. Yes, encourage engagement. And so Ralph is our special guest. And Ralph, for those who are not in real estate, we would say he's the CEO of his brokerage. And then for those who are in real estate, we have another term for that. So I'm going to allow Ralph to just talk to us a little bit about what he does now, and then we'll get into how it is that he started and where he's looking to take his business.
Perfect. Thanks for the introduction. I'm very excited to be here. Michelle, I think you're onto some big things, and I'm excited to do anything around you. I think you're like a beacon of light for
Thank you.
entrepreneurs and for forward thinkers, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks, everyone. So, I guess my official title, in the real estate world, would be broker of record. So I own the Remax office here in Unionville in Markham, and we're located on Main Street, Unionville. The street is about 160 years old, so we're still the new kids on the block. And so a broker of record of Remax Hallmark Ciancio Group Realty. So a small brokerage boutique by design. It's intentionally small because we want to have a high level of control over the experiences for our clients.
And that sounds like you've carved out your strategy in terms of, I'm going to be here, it's going to be small, and I'm not going to spread my wings too far just yet. So talk to us a little bit about how did you get started and why real estate?
Yeah, well, you know what? I got involved in real estate because I wanted to have a high impact on people's lives. And when I thought about what's the most important thing in someone's life, it's mostly health and family, and then shelter. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's basically from the top down. And I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor, and I don't know. I could make families, but I don't know how to help them. Way better than this. So I thought, working in real estate, if I could help people, even 2 or 5 or 7 or 10% better decision making, that could have an enormous impact on their lives. So yeah.
And when you started, in thinking about having an impact on their lives, there are many roads that you could take. Was there anything in particular that you did to make sure that you were going along the right trajectory?
I think that the idea was having a vision as to where I wanted to be. I think that
Yeah.
was the critical part, because every day we take steps forward, and we hope to be taking steps forward. I should say the important thing is to be taking steps. And then from there, you
Yes.
hope you're taking them forward. But it doesn't mean that just because you're taking steps, you're moving forward. You're moving forward if you're heading towards the goal, towards the end result. If you're facing the wrong direction, you may get up every day motivated, pumped, ready to go. I'm gonna change the world.
Yeah.
But if you're facing the wrong direction, you're actually stepping further and further away from where you're supposed to be. I got lucky because I felt some inspiration growing up. I used to work in my dad's ceramic tile store. He was an installer for 35 years, laying basically floor tiles and marble, etc. And I was working as a laborer on his site, on a construction site. 6 o'clock in the morning, my brother and I would get up, and in Toronto, sometimes in August, it gets to 40 degrees, and we'd be out there mixing cement and sweating all day long, just a little bit better quality of life than the people who built the pyramids, the Egyptians. That was a tough haul, and this was just a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a builder that showed up early on, and there was maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. He shows up with nice, clean khaki pants and a nice SUV. And, he just big coffee in his hand. Now, in construction, if you're wearing clean khaki pants, clean trousers, that means that you're not here to do work. You're just here to look. Right? And so he
You're here
showed
to
up.
move with your fingers.
That's exactly it. He moves people with his fingers. And he showed up with a coffee and said, how's it going here? Everything's okay? I said, yeah. And he left. And I thought, I don't want to be the guy growing up. I don't want to be the guy that's here at 6 in the morning. I want to be the guy that shows up at 10 o'clock in the morning, overseeing the whole project. So that was kind of the spark of my vision of where I wanted to be. And I know, Michelle, you spend a lot of time helping people create strategies for their future and maybe for the future of their future. So I think, finding that inspiration of what drives you. And for me, I knew that I wanted to buy, build, and sell homes. I said, one day I got to be that guy. And that was my beacon.
And I heard a few things there that I wanted to just have our viewers, because we do have persons who will be watching the replay. He had a vision. And that's one of the things I also encourage entrepreneurs. Once you're starting, have a vision, because the road is not going to be the same for everyone. And once you have that vision, you're clear that I'm going to push past obstacles. As you said, you may be moving, but you're not moving forward because the next thing is you don't have a plan. And having that plan helps you to make those decisions that are connected directly to your vision. And yesterday I was in this training, and one of the things I was thinking about as I listened to the person, she talks about her business blowing up in 2020. That's when she got started on TikTok, and things escalated for her. But there was something else that she shared in her story that I'm not sure if everybody got. She was talking about her cat, and her cat was behind one of the videos that she did. And in that story, what she said was, she had a coach in 2016, and she normally does videos, and it was in the video, the cat got caught in that video. But what I heard was, she didn't just start in 2020. She started from 2016. And sometimes, when we see persons moving forward, we don't hear about the journey in their story, that they started a long time. As you shared your story, that came back to me, that you started by working with your dad. You saw things that were happening. You saw who you wanted to be, and you wanted to be the person who showed up at 10 and not the person who showed up at 6. So that is very, very important. And I see Liz in the chat saying, agree, the vision is very, very important. I've had to have that on my, in thinking about her business. So now you thought about where you wanted to be, you created that vision, you had that plan. The next thing is, why not just work for somebody else? Or did you start there and then you went on to owning your own brokerage? How did the journey continue?
Well, the journey carried on when I picked. So again, I had my marker in the future, and I knew where I was heading towards. So and every decision I made after that professionally really led me up into heading in that direction. So when I was in university, I picked a program that would support my future career. So I have a degree in economics with a major in real estate. A very, very small program. I had 16 people in my graduating class. And so I didn't go for the bells and whistles that the rest of my peers are going for, these huge programs or the prestige of one, school or another. And then when I graduated, I took a position with Mattamy Homes. I love sharing this story, especially with young entrepreneurs or, growing entrepreneurs, because I looked up where they were. I knocked on the door of the head office. Mattamy Homes is the biggest home builder in Canada. They build roughly 7,000 homes per year, and just an enormous privately owned company. And I knocked on the door at 22 years old or 21 years old in my best suit. And I said, I'm here to apply for a job. And the front desk staff said, great, which job are you here for? And I said, well, I don't know. And they said, well, which position did you see the posting for? And I said, I didn't see one. And she said, well, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm here to apply for a job. I just want to work in this company. And she goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, I'll do anything. I just want to work. I just want to work in this company. I said, I don't really care what I'm doing. I just want to, I can sweep the basements, or I can be VP. I go, I'm not qualified for president because I still need guidance. I go, anybody, as long as I have a superior to give me some advice, I'm in. And I started working there, which at Mattamy Homes, which gave me a great foundation of understanding real estate and understanding the emotions that people feel as regards to real estate. So after doing that for a few years as an employee of Mattamy Homes, I realized a very powerful lesson. And I try to share this with my kids quite a bit, which is you have to be aware of your surroundings and the people you
Mhm.
surround yourself by. And what I mean by that is, are your values congruent with theirs? And I
Yeah.
felt like over time, my values, my personal values, were not on the same trajectory as the corporate values. And I said, I came to a tipping point and I said, this is not the place for me. I don't want to be just a cog in their wheel. I would be. I was very happy being a cog in
Yeah.
their wheel. We were going in the same direction. I was like, this is great. This is taking me to where I want to be, which is to have an impact on people's lives. And slowly that changed. So I quit my fancy job there and got my real estate license turned on or engaged. And I thought, working for myself was more attuned for what I'm built for, which is, get up, do the best you can with what you think is right. And it's hard to do that sometimes when you're working in an organization. If you're
Yeah.
lucky, you can find an organization that's aligned with you, but it's not always the case.
And I'm happy that you share that, because that leads into the next thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of values. But taking bold steps is important. And I know Liz made a comment earlier, and I know Liz personally, and I know she's thinking about that next step for her in January, moving into doing her own business. But as an entrepreneur, that is something that we all get to do, take those bold steps. And it can be scary, but I think once you realize from a values perspective, I have another person that I did some work with. She's in California, and she talks about value-based businesses. That's just what she does. Because I think when you're leading from a values perspective, it's a lot different in how you show up. You're able to connect with persons who are on the same wavelength as you are on, and you sleep better at night. Even if you're working for 24 hours or 20 hours, you really do sleep better at night. And so I'm happy that you shared that story. And as we move into talking about values, and for those who are joining, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we'll definitely respond, as they come on, or even if you have any comments and anything lands on your mind or your heart. So as you talk about values, you spoke about one thing in terms of it not being aligned. When you were thinking of moving on, what were some of the other things that came to mind?
So in starting my business, some of the things that I thought about was, what impact do I want to make? And, what kind of quality of life was I looking for? And I've had there's a pendulum swing in terms of entrepreneurism where, you kind of say you're working 24 hours and you can sleep good at night. I mean, a lot of people think that you can go from working 9 to 5 to be a boss and work your own hours. The reality is you work all the hours when you're your own boss. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I see that as a positive, because that means that you're so engaged and so excited and so connected to your work that you're willing to work the 70, 80 hours a week that a lot of starting up entrepreneurs would take. So for me, in the beginning part of my career as an entrepreneur, there was a lot of long hours, a lot of just putting everything else aside for the singular focus. Like
Yeah.
everything is focused there. And I'm happy I did it when I did. There's a multiplying effect. And if you can grow a business now, and then from there gain, for example, 7% growth every year. Well, if you start off with a hustle of 3, 4, 5 years, build a critical mass, and then you start multiplying that by 7% every year, well, 20 years later, you have a huge organization, or at least huge impact.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
compound effect, right? Just like with investments, you put down $100 every month. It sounds small, but think about what you'll have at the end of the year plus interest.
that's exactly it. That's exactly. And I think that the problem with a side hustle, and I see it quite a bit. I know a lot of people right now, it seems to be quite popular, have your principal job and then have a side hustle. The problem is, to your point, Michelle, about the investment, you never actually develop a critical mass. You never have something that can multiply times 2 and still be good enough, right? That's the
Yeah.
hard part of the side hustle. That's why they say, go all in, which I don't think everybody should be going all in all the time. I think there's got to be a maturation process. until you're committed to say this is the right time to jump.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I lost your question somewhere in my ramble, but ultimately one of the first things I wanted to do was create a culture within the company that I felt represented our personal values.
Yeah. And I think when you have your own business, you're able to craft that. And I think about my entrepreneurial journey. There was something that you said earlier. Well, my corporate journey, actually. I remember I started up by working in a call center. And there was this guy who, whenever we had team activities, so we had a lot of team building activities, he was always hanging out with the traders and the chief investment officers. And we would always say, Stephen doesn't want to hang with us. But guess what? That is where he wanted to be. So the minute there was a position or an opening, that is where, his name would be called. Hey, this guy from the call center. And that reminded me of, when you were sharing just now in terms of looking for persons who align with your values and your goals. Where are they going? Are they going in the same direction that I'm going in? And aligning yourself with them. The other thing is, you talk about the side hustle, and I think about it because when you're not all in, it's a little bit different. You have one foot in and one foot out, and I get it. And again, we go back to having a plan. I've shared with persons that one of the calculator that I encourage persons to use, if you're thinking of leaving, you do have your responsibilities, and we're not saying jump and leave it. Have a plan. I say to persons, take your 9 to 5 salary, multiply that by 2 because you're getting your benefits. So you don't want to leave and forget that. That can give you your true income. And then multiply that by 2 again. And that is your aim. Get that for 6 months consistently. And then you can say, okay, you know what? I'm working towards something and I'm getting ready to jump, because as you know, it can be hard. So talk to us about some of the things that you may have struggled with as you built your own business.
Yeah, definitely. There's tons of ups and downs. I mean, Darren Hardy talks about the entrepreneurial roller coaster, an excellent book for anyone that's thinking about the entrepreneurial space or growth in the entrepreneurial space. And I
Repeat the
mean,
name of that book. Well,
I'll write it. Well, I won't write it in the chat. Maybe if Carly's on, she can jump on. I don't know if she's logged in, but
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster,
Mhm.
Entrepreneur Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy, and that's an excellent book.
Okay.
Talks about the journey that most people in entrepreneurialism would go through. So some of the challenges, of course, are getting out there, establishing yourself in terms of your skill set, establishing yourself in terms of the community or contacts that you have, and then having the confidence, establishing your confidence enough. Because I believe confidence is transparent. They say that your energy speaks before you do. And that's one thing,
Yes.
actually, funny enough. I know we're laser focused on business, but I met Michelle because of her energy. And she was standing. We were not far away from each other. Our kids were playing soccer, and I said, "I got to talk to these people." And because it's someone that never heard my jokes before, so I was like, "Oh, this is someone they'll laugh at some old material." But I think that your energy speaks before you do, and I think part of that is your confidence. In the world of real estate, in our market, in Toronto market, there's 78,000 realtors.
Mm.
So there's actually more real estate agents than there are school teachers. So you can think
Wow.
about school teachers, you actually know their name, you can remember them, you had an experience with them. That's how many realtors there are in our market. And a lot of them, vast majority, are only doing it part-time,
Mm.
partly because the barriers of entry to become a real estate agent in Ontario are quite low. So it does allow for people to just dip their toe into the water. Now I'll tell you, I eat those agents' breakfasts every day, because when I'm sitting down with a family and they say, "Well, my sister-in-law does this part time. Maybe I should work with her." And in 5 minutes, I can convey confidence, expertise,
Right.
experience enough to push them off. So
Mhm.
I only say that to encourage some people that are thinking about, do I start a side hustle or not? I say, if it's in you, do it. And then from there, having the confidence to go from side hustle to full-time bull, right?
Right.
And that's where the gains are.
And when you share that, it's about when you're in full time, you're now able to be so laser focused. You're getting information. You know what's trending, what's not trending. While, as you said, while you're up and you're working and you're reading material, or you're joining a course, or you're listening to somebody live, the other person is building something else for someone else. And I remember when I was leaving my corporate job and I spoke to my CEO, one of the things he said to me was, one, he sensed it. And he could be joining this live. And
Yeah.
two, his mom started a business. You know, she
Mhm.
had an idea, she had a passion about something that she wanted to create for persons in Jamaica. And he sensed that. So it's good when you're able to. So I have a Dane on, and he has a question. How do young entrepreneurs develop and maintain their confidence, especially when things seem to be going wrong?
Well, there's two things in there. I mean, number one is entrepreneurs as an individual. And then the goal for a lot of people is to become a leader within a business. And I think that there's different challenges. I think in terms of, um, what's in the DNA of an entrepreneur, part of it is this delusional perspective on life. There's another excellent book called Champions, which is a golf coach who talks about the psychology of champions. And, he would show interviews or describe interviews where a professional golfer missed a putt. And they'll ask him after the game, or after the golf match, they said, well, what happened on that putt? And he said, everything was fine. And it's just in their brain, they don't see it as a failure. They see it as, I still carried on with the game. So it's the viewpoint of failure that it's hard. It's hard to do when you're talking about how you feel about yourself. Now, as it comes for leadership, can I tell another story? Another quick story? Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I was at a leadership conference once, and I heard an inspiring story, and it sticks with me. And it's about these pirates, a pirate ship, and they're out there doing what they're doing. And someone goes up into a crow nest, and they see from up top, and they say, "Arg! There's a boat coming to attack us. Arg, Captain, what do we do?" The captain gets everyone together, stands up, puts one leg on the bow of the boat, whips out his sword, and he says, "Bring me my red shirt, my lucky red shirt." Someone brings them the red shirt, and the captain leads them into fight, and they win, and they destroy the other boat, and everyone is so happy. The next day, up in the crow's nest, somebody says, "Oh, our captain, there's two ships around us. We're getting surrounded." Steps out in front of everyone, gathers everyone together, pulls out his sword and says, "Bring me my red shirt, my lucky red shirt." And they go, and everyone with conviction goes and fights, and they beat both ships amazingly from both sides, take over their ships, take over their gold, wealth, and their food. And that night they have a big party in the base of the boat. And someone asks the captain, just like you had asked, what do you do? Like what led you to make that shirt so lucky? What is it about this red shirt that is always getting us the win? And he says, let me explain. I'm the captain. I'm the leader of this ship. And I'm the first one in battle. And I wear this red shirt because if I get shot or stabbed and I start to bleed, you all will carry on fighting as if I'm perfectly fine, because you won't know that I'm dying. If I wear a
Wow.
white shirt, you'll see that I'm bleeding, and you may give in because you see that the leader's gone. And everyone was so inspired. They drank and they partied. And then the next day, sure enough, up from the crow's nest, someone with a binocular says, "Oh, Captain, there's 7 ships surrounding us. 7 ships. What do we do?" The captain comes out, gathers everyone together, whips out his sword. He says, "Bring me my brown pants." So I don't know. I guess in real life, if there was like a crowd, they would have laughed. But obviously, he's wearing brown pants because he's,
Yeah.
his fear and excitement about the preceding events. So I guess the moral of the story is, as a leader, you need to just you need to show people that you're confident, and sometimes it comes with a little bit of fake. Sometimes you
Yeah.
just need to put on a mask. I think you need to be authentic with the people that you care about, your close, your inner circle. But the reality is, being a leader, being an entrepreneur, it's very difficult. There's some very, very difficult things you need to do. And you just have to believe in what you're achieving, the greater good, and believe that that's where you're heading. And
Yeah.
sometimes finances don't look right. Sometimes the staff changes. Sometimes you get bullied by your competition, or your landlord kicks you out. There's a lot of things that can
Yeah.
happen. I've got a million stories of where everything went wrong.
Yeah.
But
I will get into two of those. I want you to share two because I want persons to understand, and it's not always peaches and cream, guys. There are a lot of things that happens behind the scene. It's just that it's not on social media, or some companies or entrepreneurs had the benefit of starting before social media, so they didn't need to publicize all their failures. But I remember in corporate, I led strategic planning and budgeting in three countries: Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Dominican Republic. And I would always say to entrepreneurs when I started this was, there were times we set a goal, a financial goal, and we're meeting in the boardroom and we don't see a possibility of achieving that goal. But our CEO is like, we're going to sit here as executives and we're going to figure it out, because we're accountable to our shareholders as a publicly listed company. We're accountable to our board, and we're not going to them to say no. One of the things as entrepreneurs, as you share that leadership story, is that sometimes because we're not accountable to anyone, we easily give up. It didn't work this time, or so what if it goes down? I can cash out and I can go back home and I can get another job. But when you're accountable, you make things happen, and you find a way. You sit together, you take on that leadership hat. And what that entails as well, Adain who asked a question, is even though you're in real estate, you're mentioning books, you're reading, you're attending leadership conferences, you're developing yourself as a person so you can show up as that leader. We all have fears. Not because you see us on camera, there are things that we're afraid of sometimes. But guess what? When you're so passionate about the vision, which is why the
sorry about
vision
that.
is important, when you're passionate about that vision, you find a way to make it happen. You find a way to move things forward. So I wanted to touch on, I think maybe that call kind of,
Did I glitchy? I feel like
yeah,
I'm.
yeah,
I feel like
it's a little glitchy. Let me see. Yes, Liz, that's exactly it. The iceberg, we only see the tip, we're not seeing what's happening way below. And, as Ralph gets his video back on, I want to remind you that you're thinking about, how am I going to get to the next level? And it's all of these things. So we can talk about the journey, we can talk about how it is that we're moving forward, but there were things that happen. So what I want you to share with us, Ralph, because sometimes entrepreneurs, we think about what can we get right now instead of what can we get 10 years from now if we put the work in. Were there any moments where you had to make a sacrifice for a short-term gain so you could win long-term?
yeah, definitely there was. There was a lot of those situations. I always say, be weary of the exchange for what you want most for what you want now. It's the
Say
most
that again.
expensive.
Say that
It's the
again,
most,
Ralph.
yeah, the most expensive trade you can make in your life is the exchange of what you want most for what you want now. Now, an example is, I want six pack. I want to be ripped. I want to be just 0.5% body fat. That's what I want. That's my I want it. Oh, there's a donut. You know what? I want the donut now. Well, the
Yeah.
donut is not congruent to my six pack. So it's the exchange of what you want most for what you want now. I want to change the world. I want to grow a business. I want to be on the cover of Forbes magazine. But my buddies just asked me if I want to go to Cabo for the weekend. I kind of deserve it. I
Yeah.
should go. No, no,
You,
no,
you
no,
only
no.
live once, right? We tell ourselves those things to make these decisions that doesn't align with where we want to go. YOLO.
Yeah. But do you know who says you only live once? Salespeople asking you to buy into what they're selling.
Yeah.
Salespeople tell you you only live once. Well, that's for their benefit, not for yours,
Yeah.
right?
So that's something that we need to remember. And as you grow, because we're trying to paint the picture for persons to see where you started and where you got to. um, what were some of the leadership development, or in personal, let me say personal development, that you had to do in becoming now a leader? Because you're not only leading yourselves, you are leading a team, you're responsible for them and their livelihood, you're also the face of your company. What were some of the other development that you had to do on a personal level?
Yeah, there was definitely this challenges across the board. I mean, in terms of um, growth and development, that's something that you just need to constantly be doing. I believe that the investment you make in yourself is an investment you're making into your future. And I think that, in my story, I've had so many, challenges or failures or obstacles that you just look at and you say, this is, just on the inside of you, you feel broken, you feel empty. I had a situation where I was part of another Remax and I was working there for 10 years. And, for us, at the core of what we do, who we are, is contribution to others, making the lives of others better. So there's a hospital that specializes in children's medicine called the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto, or Sick Kids Hospital. And from when I got started selling real estate, the first monies that I received on any sale went to Sick Kids Hospital. There was a mechanism where they could take it from any revenue coming in to be paid to me immediately, right off the top, went to Sick Kids Hospital. And I was doing that for years. And then I came to a point where I got a tax receipt from, I didn't even know. I was so immature as an entrepreneur. I didn't even think about a tax receipt. But one day it came in my mailbox as tax receipt, and there was a huge discrepancy between what I was giving and what they received. So I
Oh,
looked at the middleman, which is our broker, and I said, what's going on here? Because I can see I gave this much and my tax receipt is this much. And he basically said, you know what? Let me just write you a check. I don't know what happened. And I said, that's admission of guilt. So
yeah,
I said, if you're stealing from Sick Kids Hospital, I said, this cannot be the place for me to work. I go,
yeah,
that's the, like, clear. It was black and white, night and day. I can't be here. So I immediately told our team at the time, I said, we're leaving. And I remember we had a trip booked to go for a vacation. We were going to be at a cottage and we were leaving on Friday morning. This conversation took place on Thursday at about lunchtime. And I called my wife. I said, what do I do? She goes, we gotta do. Let's just stick together, like stand up for what we believe in.
yeah.
And in about 4 hours, I cleared out, 3 offices in their brokerage. I threw it into a rental moving van and went for vacation. And I came back the entire time I'm on vacation. I'm saying, what the heck am I doing? I just packed up my business. I had the agents on my team calling me. My support staff were working from home. And this was before a pandemic where working from home was more normal. And right, it was literally, I got in the car and the whole time I put on this mask with my family and I'm thinking, oh, we're trying to show we're at vacation. We're,
Mhm.
on the lake and having fun. And in my head, the wheels are just going, what the heck just
Yeah,
happened? And that was, they say from necessity breeds innovation.
yep,
When I opened up our brokerage, I completed another level of education to be a broker and broker of record. And I opened up our own office on Main Street, Unionville. We never looked back. So, I would say anytime that we feel a challenge as individuals, try to find what's the opportunity here.
yeah,
What's the opportunity? On the highway here, the Highway 407, they have these dimples in the road. So if you start to go off the highway a little bit, you pass your lane, your tires make a very heavy
yeah, yeah,
and sometimes and it startles you. Sometimes in life you get startled. Sometimes you say and it means either get out of the lane or correct your
yeah,
course.
yeah,
You know, don't just ignore those sounds. When something happens that is abrupt, sometimes you need to take that challenge and treat it as fuel.
yeah. And as you moved into starting your own brokerage, let's talk about, as we wrap up and share some more with our viewers. How did you, think about, no, I'm now going to be responsible for these lives? Because we're talking about building a legacy business where at the end of the day, you can decide, okay, you know what, this is something I can sell, or my kids can grow up and come and take over. What were your thoughts in terms of how am I going to now structure this business so it lives on? Or as we say in accounting, it's a going concern.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I had made that change from working in someone else's business as an agent, as an independent entrepreneur within someone else's business, and branched off onto my own, I set up a corporate structure, and I did that very intentionally. With
Mhm.
every jurisdiction has different rules, but between holding companies and family trusts and operational companies, uh, I set it all up for a generation from now. So again, it costs a lot of money, costs a lot of time, um, but I thought this is the best investment I can make because my future will thank me. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm happy you said that, because I'm the next person I have on the live to talk about building legacy business is a lawyer, and she helps persons in Ontario. I don't know, in Toronto. I don't know if she works anywhere else in setting up their businesses, because that's another thing that we don't think of as entrepreneurs. As you said, it take time and it took a lot of money, but then you are now able to wake up every day and just show up for your business, knowing where everything is, knowing where everything goes. And I find that sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're afraid of that part of the work. That's not the glitz and the glamour. That's like down in the weeds. That's the dirty part of the work, as we would call it, because it's now you sitting outside a camera or from everyone else and putting the work in so you can shape something for the future. And once you have it done once, that's it. And it's the same thing with having a plan for your business, where this is now where you're sitting down and you're dealing with some emotions, you're dealing with your fears, you're dealing with your concerns, as Adine said, of lack of confidence, but you get to work through it. You get to work through it and to see how it is that you can show up every day for greatness. So as we wrap up, Ralph, aspiring entrepreneurs, persons are on who are already on the journey, what advice would you give them? How can they ensure that that mindset is, it's not going to be confident all the time, but what advice do you have to give them as they move on?
I think the fact that you're watching this video right now already qualifies you over 90% of others, because if you made it to this part of the video, I think there's something in you that has a hunger, has a drive, has a desire, and identifying what is that hunger, drive, and desire. What is it for? Is it for money? Is it for ego? Is it for impact? Is it for contribution? So identifying those things, I think carrying on watching things like this, being part of a community of other like-minded individuals, just getting a seat at the table. That's
Yeah.
that's critical. And I think that that's an easy way, to your point of your friend that was just hanging out with people in another position level at the call center, and they just thought of them. So
Yeah.
networking with the right people, I think there's definitely a worthwhile investment in the idea of coaching and consulting, meeting with someone who can take a look from the outside and see where there's opportunities for you, see where there's a challenge. Going back to an analogy of golf, if I went for a golf lesson, I don't really golf. I'm not a big golfer because I suck. And I was chatting with the pro, and he says, all you need to really do is this. I said, what? He goes, yeah, you just got to go. That's all you got to do. It's a quarter of an inch turn of your wrist. So
Just
sometimes
like that.
rebuild your whole swing because I don't know anything different.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to listen to someone who's looking from the outside, a consultant that can say, or a coach that can say, everything is good. Just a micro shift could have, compounding impact.
Yeah. And as you shared that story, I'm reminded of, I did some work with Tony Robbins, and he always talks about the 2 millimeter shift.
That's it.
You're in a room and you're slouched over, or your arms are crossed, but just sit up, and that does a whole lot for you, and it makes a world of a difference. And we've spoken of it. Sometimes you can't see your blind spot. You can't see the things that are not working for you, and somebody else can. So thank you so much, Ralph. I know you have a live coming up. I was saying to my son Josh that Uncle Ralph is going to be talking to the guy from HGTV.
Good. We got a live video. So we put on webinars once a month, generally at the interest rate announcements for the Bank of Canada. And we just try to unpack. And that's really just a way of us giving to the community, breaking down maybe some information that they may not have access to. But we've got an interview with some of the guys from HGTV, from the McGivery Group, and that's coming up on November 16th. And maybe we can put a link for the webinar for mailing list in the group chat. And of course, if anyone has any questions and they want to connect online, you could find me. I'm happy to be a guide or a tool or even just a cheerleader. Sometimes we need a little bit of all of them.
Yep, we do. Mika, if you can drop the link in
Thank you, Michelle.
You're most welcome.
I think what you're doing here is excellent. I see your passion for helping others is unbelievable, and you bring a level of professionalism, a perspective that is unique, and you're very eloquent, and the way that you communicate your thoughts are packaged so nicely that it's really easy to digest. And that's a skill set, because I know your brain is working at 100 miles an hour, and I love that you communicate everything in a way that people feel they can apply it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So if we can drop the link in the chat so that we can, okay, I just got the link, so that we can go ahead and register and sign up. I say to persons all the time, you don't need to only be focused on persons in your industry, because you never can tell. There's just one thing that you learn from one person, you learn something else from somebody else, you hear something in their story that resonates with you as an individual, and you can apply that to your life and to your journey. Because as an entrepreneur, you are it. Persons may see your company, but they are seeing you, and how you show up is who is going to come to your business. So we are going to just drop this in the chat before we go. And if anyone else would love to, just give us one moment. I'm not sure why this isn't coming up, but I don't want Ralph to go before we have persons register, so you can be on. We see this person sometimes on television. You never can tell. There's something about their story, as I said before, that will resonate. So thank you so much, Ralph. Really appreciate you being open and taking the time to share with our community. And again, if you're interested in learning more, connecting with someone, I know I saw persons on LinkedIn who are in real estate. You can go ahead and connect. Maybe you're doing your 9 to 5 and you have it as on the side, and you're like, listen, Ralph, I'm afraid to jump out. Maybe he's able to share something else with you. So thank you so much, Ralph.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Everyone that's still watching, thank you so much for your attention. And hopefully you can take some of the fuel, some of the energy on this video, and create some impact in your life today. Make it happen.
Thank you. And thank you, guys. Remember, we're going to be live again next week, talking next 2 weeks, talking about how it is you structure your business. And if you have a business and you're thinking about, setting goals, setting financial goals, defining what actions you need to take, I've dropped my link for my calendar in the chat as well. You can go ahead and book a call with us. Have a wonderful week, and we'll talk soon.